Thank you for joining us for this webinar today outlining the request for proposals by the Delta Regional Authority for our Delta Regional Development Plan 3. On the line we have Chris Massengill, the federal co-chairman of the Delta Regional Authority, as well as Ted Abernathy, principal of Economic Leadership LLC, who is serving as our project director for the Regional Development Plan and this RFP. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please enter those questions into the question box at the bottom of your control panel. We will have Chairman Massengill give a welcome, and then Ted Abernathy will walk through the webinar and slides. At the end of Ted's presentation, we will then pose those questions to Ted and our staff and provide any answers that we are able to. If you have any technical issues or technical needs, please also enter those into the questions box, and I will do my best to take care of those for you as well. Chairman Massengill, if you're ready, go ahead.
Thank you, Spencer. Thanks everyone for taking time to be on the call and your interest, for being a part of this process, and hopefully joining us on this journey to provide a update to our existing Regional Development Plan 2. A couple of comments on my end that I'll just set for context for what we're doing. First and foremost, obviously, if you're on this call, you have a sense of the Delta Regional Authority, what we do, and where we want to go. And we've been utilizing some, what I still believe is a sound piece of work from our Regional Development Plan 2. And one of the things I've stressed to Ted and our team is that we're not looking for a wholesale our Regional Development Plan. This is truly our effort to update and to modernize and to make some modifications to bring it up to date with the circumstances that we're dealing with now as it relates to the economy, our communities, the techniques that we've engaged in terms of development. It has been a big focus for us at the Delta Regional Authority. Our primary focus is to engage in what we feel like is real economic development work. We still do some community development work, but our perspective is really more focused on the economic development side of the house. That's how we've garnered the sense of relevancy of the things that we're engaging in, and Regional Development Plan. It was put together with a lot of great research, some fantastic work that was done, and there are many aspects of that plan that are still very relevant and sound principles today. Principles you to engage in and include in how we move forward. This is our 5-year plan, how we're going to be doing economic development work for the next 5 years. This is something that we're required to do by law, and so it's time to do that, to dust this thing off, give it a fresh coat of paint, update it to where we stand with a focus on economic development being a primary focus area in how we do business. We operate in those 5 major categories that many of you all on the call are probably familiar with. And then we do some other things like the economic recovery work, like some of the resiliency stuff that we do, along with our major policy initiatives, particularly as it relates to health and workforce education and training. And then, of course, now we've done a lot of work and a lot of concentration with small business development and entrepreneurship. So I appreciate your willingness to engage with us on this journey. We're very excited to embark and to be a very inclusive endeavor. And I know Ted's going to go into this with greater detail, but this is going to be a process that is very inclusive, very transparent, and again, I'm not anticipating doing a complete restart from sound principles now, and it's just a matter of updating our current plan to fit the circumstances that we are dealing with, from economic indicators, those components of success in our communities that we've been seeing from our work in the Delta region, and taking into account new thoughts and new ideas as it relates to economic development, because DRA's #1 focus is to be that leverage tool for our states and for our local communities to help create jobs build communities and improve lives. And so with that, I will turn it back over to Spencer and Ted again. Ted, thank you for your work on this. And of course, our team at the Delta Regional Authority, Marielle, who I'm sure is on the call, and Bill Triplett, my Chief of Staff. We've got a great team. I'm very proud of the work that we're doing on this, and I look forward to embarking on this effort. So thank you again, and Spencer, I'll turn it back over to you.
Great, thank you, Chairman. And now we will move to the webinar presentation. We have Ted Abernathy on with us. He is the principal of Economic Leadership LLC and serving as the project director for the development of the Delta Regional Development Plan 3. Ted?
Thank you very much, and thank you, Chairman Massengale. For all of you on the phone today, thank you for being part of this process. Chris has already emphasized that we are expecting this to be an update of an existing plan to move us forward. I'll serve as the project director and the interface between the Delta Regional Authority and the eventual contractor for this. And just so you all know, I'm in some place, Spencer's in another place. He'll be forwarding the slides, so I'll be asking him to do that as we move forward. And if you'll do the first one, that'll be great, Spencer. This is formally the development of the DRA Regional Plan 3, and it's a plan that will cover the years 2015 to 2020. We've issued this proposal to try to secure a contract with an economic development entity to work with the Delta Regional Authority to develop the plan. It becomes the updated plan, which is built on the previous plan, and it'll its activities through the year 2020. Next. That we're going to talk about today can be found at dra.gov/RDPIII. We hope you'll follow along with that. As we said, we'll try to answer as many questions as we can at the end of the webinar, but for any question we can answer, and for any question that you write us along the way, we'll be posting all of those answers at the same location, and you can find many of the questions that came out of the first webinar and in the interim time already posted there. Next. My role again is to oversee the interface between the project and the DRA staff. Mary O'Brien is also the staff member designated at the Delta Regional Authority. Meryl's based in Washington, D.C., and has been handling all the administrative work and will be handling all the scheduling as we move forward on this. Any written questions, please submit them. We want everyone to have the same opportunity to get answers to these questions, so we won't be answering them on the phone if you call us, but if you submit written questions, we will answer them at the location designated there. We'll be taking questions up until April 20th at 4 o'clock, and then we will post every answer by April 21st, the next day, and we won't be able to take questions past that point. Next. The goals for the Delta Regional Authority moving forward are set. As we said, there's a build from the previous plan. The goals are the advancement to advance the productivity and economic competitiveness of the region, to strengthen the physical and digital connections to the global economy, and then goal 3 is to facilitate capacity building within the Delta community. That you'll find that that's reworded slightly from the first plan, but very similar in what the goals we expect to come from that. Again, building on those 3 major goals, but developing much more specific action items and new action items to try to achieve those goals is what we're hoping for. Next. We think that any successful applicant is going to be well-versed in the Delta Regional Plan 2, and so as part of the RFP, but also part of these slides, we've given you a link to that plan. We hope that you'll take a good look at it. Next. Eligibility for this is fairly specific, and so we've got a lot of parameters for you. They're all in the RFP, but proposals are limited to 36 or fewer pages. You'll see why in a few minutes. The time frame for review and awarding contract is very short, so We also want only entities that have demonstrated expertise in economic development. We're looking specifically for organizations that have multi-state strategic planning experience, experience in forming regional coalitions, organizations that have public outreach strengths. Part of this plan will be public outreach into the DRA states, and also an organization that has performed regional analysis and research at the regional level, sub-state level, and sub-regional level. So we're looking for organizations that have deep and strong expertise in the specific area for development of the plan. Next. The deadline is next Friday night, 11:59 Eastern Time, and the timeline for the process is that by May 1st, we will select the contractor. That's a hard date. That the 24th is a hard date. May 1st is a hard date, and September 30th, being complete with the project, is also a hard date. The Delta Regional Authority has set aside up to $150,000 to be provided up to that amount for the selected contractor, and that's for the development and completion of the development of the plan for RDPIII. Next. When you submit, we're asking for 7 copies of the proposal received under sealed cover. We tell you how to address that cover, and we'd also like 1 electronic copy. We need all of those received no later than 11:59 on April the 24th, and any submissions after that date will not be accepted. Next. We've asked for the proposals to be in a specific order. This is to help our review process. Again, very short review, as you saw, due on the 24th. We'll let people know by May 1st. So we're asking that you follow. This checklist is in the RFP under Section 3.1. I'll go through some pieces of it, but I recognize that all of you will be following as you go forward. Next. The transmittal letter, we want it signed by someone legally able to bind the respondent. We need to know the tax identification number, an IRS form. We do need specific things, such as the federal funds, about non-discrimination. We also ask that it's your contract, that you're doing the work for this, and a statement that the respondent read and understands and agrees to all the provisions in the RFP. Next. We're asking for a table of contents to help us move through the proposal quickly, and an executive summary that summarizes the contents of the technical parts of the proposal and provides the evaluators with a clear understanding of the whole proposal. Next. The background, what we're looking for here is information regarding your corporate background, the size and resources of your organization, financial standing, any issues that we should be aware of involving litigation, and also highlight here projects that are similar in scope to the one that we're asking for. Next. We'd also like specific information on the date established, ownership, number of employees, full and part-time, that have been engaged in similar projects. Next. We're asking for letters of recommendation. Here, we'd like for you to submit 3 recent professional references within the last 3 years and 3 letters of recommendation. We were asked last time, do these have to be all different from different organizations? The answer is no. We think you'd like to show as broad a experience as possible, but they do not have to be 3 completely different professional references and letters of recommendation. We'll probably contact all of the, certainly the finalist recommendations and references, so please provide mailing addresses, phone numbers, and email addresses for each. Next. This is the section about experience and qualification. We'd like for you to include an explanation about proven experience in the areas that we talked about at the beginning. So multi-state strategic planning, how you've been involved in getting local voices heard in the planning process, experience in sub-regional and regional strategic planning, and also in analysis and trying to understand what economic directions ought to be for the area. Next. Here we'd like, in this section, for you to tell us what your proposed organizational staffing and supervision is for the project, who's going to be involved, what the job titles are, who will be the designee for the project that would work directly with me, and also any details, the project management methods that your organization or organizations that would be doing the work. Next. This is where we'd like for you to try to provide a description of the scope of the focus of the technical approach. How do you think you'd go about this? What do you think you'd do for this project? This is not what you've done on other projects. That's in the experience section. But as you look at doing a updated plan for an 8-state region, how are you going to approach it? What's going to be the way that you believe that you can be most successful approaching the project? Next. This is the calendar work plan that summarizes your work, the budget for the entire project, including how it interfaces with the due dates that have been provided in the RFP. As I said, there are several hard dates in the RFP. That's the submission date, when we'll notify you when the project needs to be finished. There are other dates provided in the RFP that are on or about dates. We'll work with the successful applicant to make sure that we can all agree on the eventual dates for kickoff meetings and meetings within the individual states and those types of things. But we'd like you to propose how you think the flow of work would meet your schedule. Next. The process is twofold from our end. The updating process for the regional Plan 3 needs to be completed by September 30th. You'll read a lot of places where each of the states will then do its own state-specific strategic plan. That would be after the completion of the region-wide plan. So during this process, we expect to get input from the public and from public leaders and the states, but the states themselves, their plan development will occur after the September 30th date, so we didn't want anyone to be confused by that. Next. In May, sometime we expect to have a region-wide kickoff event. That would be the kickoff for regional leaders with a listening session format. We'll manage that process with the eventual contractor to get the dates and the format set for that. And then between June 1st and July 23rd, the expectation is that the contractor will hold events and they'll work with me on dates and what we can do to make sure DRA staff is appropriately involved. To be held in each of the states. So that's an intense time. We want to make sure whoever is applying for the work here understands that that'll be 8 events, one in each state during that period of time. Next. We know that this is an intense project. It is a short time frame, but well funded and building off of a plan that already exists. So we're looking forward to receiving proposals from people who have experience in these types of efforts, and look forward to working with them on a fast-paced project to try to create a new regional development plan for to guide DRA's work and investments over the next 5 years. We'll stop now, and I'll turn it back over to Spencer, and he'll offer questions. We'll answer as many as we can on the phone if we know the answers. If we need to consult with other staff or do other things, then we'll post the answers to the questions on the DRA site in the coming days. Spencer.
Thank you, Ted. At this time, if you have any questions that you'd like like us to address, please type them into the question box at the bottom of your control panel, and we will do our best. Again, as he said, if there are any questions that we cannot answer at this time, or we need to consult one of our fellow staff members, we will do so and then issue those on the on fbo.gov as well as dra.gov/RDPIII. Okay, Ted, the first question we have is, in addition to the RFP checklist, are there other consultant selection criteria that will be used by the selection committee?
No, the checklist and what we're looking for from the consultant is laid out in the RFP, and the successful contractor or set of contractors will be based on that criteria.
Okay, thank you. Next question is minority participation on the consultant team part of the selection criteria?
So I'm going to have to punt on that one, Spencer, and let you know the answer to it. I don't know. We'll get an answer and print that.
Okay, I do not know the exact answer. If Muriel, do you have any clarification on that? Or I know that we've received that question before.
We're going to need to issue an official answer to that one.
Okay.
Great. Okay.
Fair
So we will include those in our questions that are released on the website after this call. Next question is, in addition to the $150,000 consultant contract budget, have other project budget items been determined or estimated?
Not to my knowledge. I'd like to, the questionnaire, if the person who asked the question could be a little more specific, that would be great. But I do not know of an alternative budget. Mariel, do you know of other things that have been budgeted other than the contractor's budget?
No, I would agree. Additional clarification on that question would be helpful, and possibly on the one that was just asked previously as well. I'm assuming that the question that was asked previously is about a subcontractor working with the contractor, and we have issued a response to that question on dra.gov. But yeah, I would agree any additional clarity that the person asking the question can provide would be helpful. I'm not aware of any alternative budget to answer this one.
Okay, thank you. The next question is whether the presentation will be available on the website. I'm assuming that that question is addressing the slide deck that we went through today. And yes, that slide deck is available at dra.gov/RDPIII. We will also be posting the recording of this webinar on our YouTube page, which is youtube.com/DRA videos, videos with an S. So you'll be able to, you're welcome to share this webinar presentation with your colleagues or with other people you might think are interested in submitting and putting together a submission packet for this RFP. And if the person who asked the prior two questions, you could provide any clarification that might help, we'll be happy to address those.
And Spencer, let me just add, if the question is about budgets, so DRA staff participating in this is on their budget. My work is on a separate budget, but all of the work associated with the production of the plan and the outreach to get information, the research to put the plan together, we are assuming comes from the contractor's $150,000 or less budget that they submit. So I don't know if that's helpful at all, but that's the most I know without clarification.
Great, thank you, Ted. The next two questions, and looking at them, we're probably going to have to follow up with, but the first question is, how has the entrepreneurial program worked in terms of numbers? How do you measure the success of the program? provide clarification if I get this incorrectly, but if I can assume correctly that you're discussing the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Initiative under the Delta Regional Authority and the Delta Entrepreneurship Network, which is a part of that initiative, I would like to provide that answer after this call because I do not have those numbers. And for the Entrepreneurship Network, I mean, we launched it 3 months ago, and so we have not moved into the evaluation phase of that program yet. However, if you have any further clarification, please feel free to email us at RDPIII@dra.gov regarding that program, and we'd be happy to help answer any questions about that. The next question is, how have telcos or telecommunications firms and internet providers been included in the implementation of DRA programs? And that is another question that I believe I can go ahead and answer that we're going to need to follow up with an answer posted after this webinar because neither of the three of us work in our telecommunications area. So we will issue a separate answer to that that will be posted on the RDPIII website at dra.gov. Those are all the questions that we have so far. Are there any additional questions? I'll give about 10 to 15 more seconds for you to submit any additional questions.
This is Muriel. I would just add in response to the question about telcos that something that's very integral to this process going forward is incorporating feedback from stakeholders all throughout our region. And that's the impetus behind holding the listening sessions in 8 states where a wide range of stakeholders will be invited and welcome. Those are open to the public events, and those are specifically designed for feedback and incorporation of stakeholders. We'll also be sending out survey materials and doing everything we can to incorporate stakeholder feedback, if that's part of what the question was.
Okay, we have another question that it's a clarification to the question asked regarding the budget. It is, will the overall project budget submitted in the proposal need to include total project costs, in other words, public meetings, facilities, advertising, publication, mailings, copies of the plan, etc.? Ted?
Yes. With one caveat, I'm sure that the Delta Regional Authority will work closely with the contractor to try to get locations that with partners that will be free or reduced, but it certainly will include the contractor's travel and all of that work. It does include the production of the plan, final plan, in a limited number of copies. Spencer, I'll ask you, we'll clarify this. I don't believe we expect full publication of the plan in a large run to be part of the contractor's role.
We have not clarified in the RFP, as far as I know, a number of, like a set number of plans that would need to be printed as part of the overall project. Let me double check that, and Muriel and I can look into that, but I don't believe that that would be included in there. However, I'd like to follow up with an official response to that later.
Great. And as I said, a lot of the places that we would expect public meetings would be with partners that DRA works with regularly, whether those are community college or community organizations or governor's offices. And so many of the locations certainly will be have limited cost. and so I don't think that's going to be something that the contractor bears any very much cost on, if any.
Great, thank you, Ted. If we do not have any further questions, we will go ahead and conclude the call. Thanks to everyone for joining. Thank you, Ted, for the presentation, and Muriel for your work on this webinar. Again, I'd like to emphasize that any further questions can be posed to RDPIII@dra.gov, and we will both answer those questions as well as post all questions and answers provided on our website at dra.gov/RDP3. Also on that website will be a copy of the slide deck from today, as well as a recording of today's webinar, which can also be accessed on the DRA's YouTube page at youtube.com/DRA videos. Again, the webinar recording can be found on youtube.com/DRA videos. Thank you, everyone, for your time today, and we look forward to seeing your proposals.